by CREATES for UBD, and it's also been approved by the Medical Health and Research Ethics Committee for the Ministry of Health. So we've been working together with EYVD Technology, who are behind the Brew Health app, and that's very helpful because it enables us to have a look at the entire database of people who've been vaccinated and then randomly select participants for each batch. So for each week we call it batch 1, batch 2, batch 3. So the aim is that we will get a really good distribution by gender, by age and by vaccine type in this study, and that they will be reproducibly between 2 to 6 weeks post-vaccine. And this is the reason that we're not taking volunteers. If we took volunteers, we would not be in control of the time since vaccination. So we know that antibodies wane over time, so we want to catch a comparable snapshot so we can make a really good comparison between the 3 vaccine platforms that have been used for adults in Brunei. So when a patient comes in, this army of volunteers, they register, so we check that they're the right person due for the day. We then go through the participant information sheet with them. So they've already seen this because it's linked to the invitation, and our hotline number is there too. So the data logger and the phlebotomist will ask some questions. So really they need to check, is it really that person? And are they taking any immunosuppressive drugs that would affect the immune response post-vaccine? So a very small number of people might. So they check whether or not they have any immunosuppressive drugs. So the data logger has a list of potential immunosuppressive drugs here. Once the participant is happy, the team have answered any questions about the study. So what kind of questions do they normally ask?
Usually we ask about the medical history. One of them would be whether they have a history of diabetes, maybe a history of kidney diseases and also heart diseases, whether they have blood pressure and history of cancer, and as you mentioned, if they've taken any immunosuppressive treatments or just generally any medications, because you want to see whether they have any effects during the vaccination. We also ask, I think some extra questions we ask would be from which district are they from, just so we know any differences from each district.
So that will all be in the database. So once we've had those conversations, they have to physically consent. So they just write their name and IC, and then they go through the points and agree to join the study or not. So because we're taking 5 ml of blood, we will have spare serum. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future. There may be future variants, there may be better assays we could use. So we're going to ask them to also agree for their serum to be used for future studies, but it will only be related to COVID, and it will only be an antibody test, but maybe not the identical one that we're talking about here. So this gives us, we should have a really good serum bank that we can do future research on when the virus continues to mutate or better assays come along. So at the end, after the phlebotomist has taken the blood, so they've been given allocated a random number. That number then gets added into the database. So this is the unique identifier. So this keeps all the data will be anonymized. We can pull back on this. And then at the end of the day, we give them a patient information sheet. So this explains, so ultimately, when these results have been generated, EYVD will send out a text message to all participants to tell them if there is neutralising antibodies are positive or negative. So this was written by the Ministry of Health, and basically explains what does the result mean. It's in English and Malay. So they all take that away with them, and the patient information and this participant leaflet is also available on our faculty website. But we give it them, we go through it on paper, and we give them a physical copy. So if they have any queries, they can ring our hotline, and we have a medical doctor who can talk to them about it. So hopefully we'll get lots of people who agree to join the study. So we're trying to keep consistency and get a good sample, and so then we can do really powerful analysis.